Natya, Dr. M.G.R. Janki College, Chennai. With several published papers and seminar presentations to her credit, she has presented papers at the World Sanskrit Conference in Edinburgh, Bangkok and Vancouver. She has also presented Geet Govind of Jayadev through multimedia at the Hindu Lit Fest in Mrs. Mrinalini Pandey. Miss Mrinalini Pandey, a scholar of art history. She has presented one of her papers at the prestigious Cambridge University in UK. She has translated Eric Siegel's Love Story from English to Hindi, which was published by Manjul Publishing House. She is currently translating Roald Dahl's Matilda into Hindi. I'd request you to unfold the conversation, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, except for the fact that I'm Miss, not Mrs. It's okay, these things happen. I think people are just moving in and going out. Okay, anyway, I'll just start off with the conversation. I'm very happy that DLF gave me this session to moderate. It is something which is very close to my heart. I'm really a huge fan of the Bhakti movement and the Sanskrit literature and Indian art, of course.
Can I request the audience to take the conversation outside, please? So there's no disturbance for the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinita ji. Much needed. And when I spoke to Sharda ji for the first time, I got an email from her, and the way she was passionate about the subject, that is something which really excited me to looking forward to this session. So firstly, I would just straight dive into the topic because Sharda ji has a very beautiful presentation and very beautiful songs which she would like to present to the audience. So I would first ask her a little bit about the Bhakti movement, who was Jayadev, what is Geet Govind all about?
Thank you, Mrinalini. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and I'm very grateful to the organizers of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival. It's a beautiful city, and it's indeed a great pleasure and privilege for me to be here this evening. Coming to this, I think it's a very relevant and a nice way of ending this evening with the when we speak of the relevance of the Sanskrit texts and the Natyashastra in our literary tradition. Earlier this evening, I was listening to other writers talk about how a writer should actually touch the emotions rather than just give some information or tell a story. Well, that's exactly what the Natyashastra says. It's the literature of power which appeals to the emotions, whereas the literature of knowledge is what gives you knowledge or information. But what moves the heart, what touches your heart, and what actually influences you is the emotional aspect of literature. In our tradition, coming to the Sanskrit tradition, art mirrors reality, of course. So reality and art go together hand in hand. And the earliest records and the descriptions and the explanations we have are from Natya, from the performing arts. It's not from reading, because centuries ago nobody read books. There were no books. People need not be literate. It was the Natya, it was the performing arts, it was the music and dance that really brought the stories to the people. So naturally, our earliest assessment of what is the emotional response, or what is art, what is literature, goes back to the Natya. So it's a vast subject, and I should learn to be a little more focused in what we cover this evening. So coming to the Gita Govinda of Jayadeva, it's a very popular and well known in Eastern India and South India. It's very much part of the living music and dance traditions, as you all know. And actually, it's very much living in North India also, in the Hindustani traditions also, except that it has moved from the Sanskrit into the Hindi or the Hindustani, which is what I'll be looking at this evening. What made me write this book was we all know it's beautiful poetry, it's Shringar, and it's love poetry, and it's very beautiful in music and dance, and very popular and very well known. What is not so well known is how technically brilliant it is from the literature point of view and from the Natya point of view, from the motifs and the technical aspects of dance. Again, we will not be able to go into too many details. We look at one window, we look at the Nayikas. What does the Natyashastra say about Nayikas, and how does the Gita Govinda address those Nayikas? So what are the Nayikas in Natyashastra? We know there are 8 rasas and Navarasas. Shringara is certainly the king of rasas because of its popularity, its great detail, the nuances with which Shringara rasa is dealt with doesn't compare with any other. It's because people enjoy that the most, and there's a great variety of emotions that can be depicted. And I'd like to mention here that Shringar Rasa doesn't only mean physical love or intimacy. The way Natyashastra defines Shringar, he says, Yatkinchit loke shuchi medhyam darshaniyam cha tat shringarena upamiyate. So whatever is beautiful, pure, sacred, enjoyable, pleasant, and the best of life is compared to Shringar, where we, there's a festival, we have a lamp outside, we have flower decorations, we have rangoli, we have all the auspicious things. That depicts Shringar. It so happens that most of the time the theme is love, because then when everything else is fine, then we celebrate love. So that is the whole background with the Shringar Ras. Can we have the first slide, please? I'll just move quickly through the slides. Yeah, the next one. Yes, the next one. And the next. Okay, and the next. Thank you. So, the Gita Govinda was written way back in the 12th century. You're talking about the Bhakti movement. Yes, it's a very big milestone or a very big landmark of the Bhakti movement. And there are 24 songs set in 12 sargas or cantos. It's less than 300 verses in all. So what are these cantos? Shringara Ras has Virah, which is in separation, all the yearning and the longing and the tender emotions of the Nayika. And there is only one way of Sambhog Shringar, when they are together, when they are happy, when the two lovers are together. So yes, but to appreciate the depiction of the Sambhog Shringar when they are together, if we build up the whole anticipation with so many stages of Virah, then the audience or the reader or the people who are appreciating that are taken level from level. In a movie, I often use a movie as a motive because the Natya today is more relevant in the movies. If you have a love story and there are 2 young people and then they meet and they fall in love and then they get married, it's beautiful. I mean, it's wonderful life, but there's no story. So in real life, you can have these kind of events. But in drama, in Natya, you need to have a story. You need to have a sequence of events where there is something to be achieved. Natyashastra talks about all this. It's not my own analysis like a creative fiction writer would tell you. But the beauty is whenever you listen to any explanations of what writers are discussing, you find it's all there explained in our literary theory. So that's the point I want to make. So in the Nayikas, in Shringara Ras per se, there are many ways of defining Nayikas. By age, by experience. Some are very innocent and they're unaware that they have fallen in love. Their charm is different. More mature Nayika knows that she has fallen in love. So her reactions and her bashfulness or her boldness are different. The Praudha Nayika is of course a much more mature person who is bold in her love. She is able to address the beloved and tell him that she is in love with him. So these are the kind of differences which come through in the different Nayikas. We talk about the Ashta Nayikas, the next one please. This is a narrow window of depicting the situation that the Nayika is in. It's beautiful. I mean, is she in the early stages of love, or is she waiting for him, or has he already come and is she talking to him? These are the things. Would you like to say something about the next one, please? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Like we were talking about Nayikas that day, and I said it's quite a bold topic because love, addressing love, I think in different cultures it is seen differently. And as far as the Nayikas are concerned, I was talking to Sharda ji about the Abhisarika Nayika, somebody, a Nayika who's waiting for her lover. It's a very bold topic. And we were discussing how the Nayikas, how basically we've kind of perceived. In sculptures also we see Nayikas are depicting different stages, and how a woman, like, it's basically emotion, love and emotion. I personally feel how a woman is waiting for her lover, or the one who's angry and she is really, she just wants to leave him, or maybe somebody else is pacifying and trying that both the lovers they make up after the fight. So I think it's a very beautiful way, the way Indian art, aesthetics, Natyashastra and the Indian culture has been so inclusive, has adopted to these things, and we openly talk about love. Like we were discussing about Kadambari, and we were discussing about love.
Mrinalini is fascinated with the idea of boldness in our sculpture and our art. And I was telling her that to be bold was not the purpose of what they did. I mean, to us it looks like that. But for at whichever period these works of art, the sculpture or the poetry was done, it was the style of those times. And it was very much within decency and within dignity. And it's a question of what one is used to, whether you're able to face certain details or not. So I have a list of the Ashtanayikas here. The cover is also from Ananda Kumaraswamy's book on the 8 Nayikas. And here you have the Proshita Bhartrika is the lady whose beloved is away on travel. In those days you didn't have an SMS or any means of communication. There was no telling when he would return. So the lady waits patiently. He maybe have been sent away by the king on some errand, or he may be away on a business trip. So these are the typical situations where, like Kalidasa's Meghadutam, in the Purva Megh, the Yakshini is described as pining for her husband who has been banished, and she doesn't know when he is going to return. So the Proshita Bhartrika is not keen on her appearance. She neglects her appearance. She forgets to brush her hair or wear her ornaments. So all these things are there. The Virahot Kantita is pining for the beloved, and she is utkanta, she is anxious in virah. Vipralabdha is one who has got fooled, or she's been mistaken. She thought she had a rendezvous, and then she thought he will come to her, or she is waiting somewhere and he is supposed to come, but there may be a miscommunication, or she is not sure if he understood right, or he may be held up by some other activity, so he doesn't show up. So then what happens to her feelings? You see, the Vasaka Sajja is the next one on the list. Vasaka Sajja is one who is all dressed up, waiting to receive him. And after some time, and then there are motives, in poetry, and because it has to be enacted, and the Natyashastra is basically for the performers. It is to help them present their topic better. So they have to understand the state of mind and, completely all the different ways in which her emotions can be manifested. So the Vasaka Sajja is there, she's looking out every sound of a leaf or a breeze. She thinks maybe Krishna has come, so in Gita Govinda Radha is sitting there waiting. But after some time, what happens to her patience? It's the same lady, it's the same place, it's the same ornaments, but her patience wears out. So then we have the Vipralabdha coming in. So then you have signs of irritation, doubt, suspicion. So these are the kind of bhavas that would come then. The Abhisarika is the bold lady who goes out to meet her beloved. Typically, there are some who go in the day, some who go in the evening. So then you have beautiful descriptions of the moonlight and the darkness, and the lady is all glowing and she's all dressed up. And they look like streaks of saffron, the saffron in the milk, I would say, the yellow, golden yellow color in the darkness. And one of the motives is the dark cloak that she uses to hide her finery and to hide in the darkness. The Kalahantarita is very interesting. She is somebody who is very much in love with the beloved, but there is a lover's quarrel. For some reason they are angry, they are not speaking to each other, and she can be rude, she can be rebuffing him, So that's Kalahantarita. Typically, Kalahantarita will have a Sakhi who comes in to mediate between the two, to try to make up for the quarrel. The Khandita is the one who is offended, who may be rejected. So the sense of rejection is very high. You see, in drama in those days, the king had many wives. They had large harems and there were many women. So sometimes you have a queen who says the king has to come to her, maybe a vrat or something. But if he has promised to meet one queen, but if another queen says she's undertaken a vrat and he has to come and help her, then he's duty bound to go there. So then this lady may be waiting. She may not have got that information. So her mood can be very bad when she realizes that instead of coming to her as he had promised, her maids will come and tell her the king has gone to the apartments of the other queen. So then all hell breaks loose. So, then she's able to show her anger and give him a firing. So that is the Khandita Nayika. She's also broken-hearted. There is a lot of pathos in what she says. And then the Swadhina Bhartrika is the lady in all her glory. She has the beloved under her thumb out of love. Swadhina Bhartru. So the Bharta is under her, subordinate to her out of affection. So I want to mention, I don't want to go into the Sanskrit aspects and make it a very academic or a, pedantic presentation. I want to point out how these have come into the Hindustani art and music traditions. Music you can all understand because you know the lyrics, you know the words. Many songs we know that Radha is singing it to Krishna or a Sakhi is singing it to, we have small motifs like Eli, Ari. In Hindustani music, you have all these, so then we get the whole picture. In Tamil also, Adi and those kind of words tell you that one lady is speaking to another. This picture has Krishna painting Radha's nails, the alta or the... So that is the Swadhina Bhartrika. Can I have the next slide, please? This is the Vasaka Sajja in Sanskrit texts, and in this Ananda Kumaraswamy's book is based on a Hindi text, a Hindustani text called Rasika Priya by Keshava Dasa of the 16th century. So I want to show you how the Sanskrit has come into the later writing of the Middle Ages. The Vasaka Sajja is there. The typical motif is the bed of leaves. It's the bed of fresh leaves or the flowers. So in the forest, it's not easy to go and sit somewhere. So they first make a nice couch place to sit. And then she is there waiting in all her finery. Next one, please. The Abhisarika. In the Sanskrit texts and then the Gita Govind, we don't have anything like lightning or snakes or scorpions. But slowly over the centuries in the Hindi texts, these have added spice to the discussion, where they say the lady is braving the lightning and she's braving the snakes and scorpions and setting out. So it makes for very interesting art in all these paintings. The next one, please. The Kalahantarita. So you can see that Radha is not facing Krishna. She is upset. She's not listening to what he says. He's trying to console her. And the Sakhi is also. In the Gita Govind, there's a beautiful song where the Sakhi is telling Radha, why are you rebuffing him when you're yearning from him? Yearning for him. When he says something sweet, you say something harsh. When he comes to you, you push him away. No wonder you're in a state like this. And she says, it's very beautiful. She says, look at him and let your eyes be fruitful in this life. She says, Hari Rabhi Sarati, Hari Rabhi Sarati, Vahati Madhupavani, Kimiti. She says, look at him when the soft wind blowing. Hari is doing the Abhisara, he's Abhisarati, he's coming to meet you. Turn and look at him and let your eyes be, achieve their purpose in this life. It's that beautiful how she says. Next one, please. There's another one, which is again Kalahantarita. In paintings, when you have Radha and Krishna facing away from each other, you can be sure that it's Kalahantarita. Next one, please. Khandita. So she is pushing him away and then she says, don't come to me. Please, please don't give me your lies. Just get yourself away. I can't bear to see you. Next one. Yes, I have the Khandita Nayika, the song. Can you play that song, please? The track 1. This is by Padma Bhushan Dr. Balamurali Krishna. The way, you can start the thing. It's a few minutes of music. The way he sung it is very dramatic. He doesn't take it as a typical song, but there is drama in that song. Without, follow the meaning. Very strong, very bold in what she's saying.
याहि माधव याहि केशव मावद कैतववादम् तामनुसर सरसीरुहलोचन यातव हरति विषादम् मावद कैतववादम् रजनि जनित गुरु जागर राग कषायित मलस निमेषम् वहति नयनम् अनुरागमिव स्फुट मुदित रसाभिनिवेशम् मावद कैतववादम् कज्जल मलिन विलोचन चुंबन विरचित नीलिम रूपम् दशनवसन मरुणं तव कृष्ण तनोति तनोरनुरूपम् मावद कैतववादम् दशनपदं भवदघरगतं मम जनयति चेतसि खेदम् कथयति कथमधुनापि मया सह तव वपुरे तदभेदम् मावद कैतववादम् भ्रमति भवानबलाकबलाय वनेषु किमत्र विचित्रम् प्रथयति पूतनिकैव वधूवद निर्दय बालचरित्रम् मावद कैतववादम्
Stop that track now. Yeah. In this, if you notice, when Krishna was a baby, we have the story of the Putana Rakshasi who comes as a wet nurse and tries to murder, kill all the infants in that region. So in her anger, Radha is picking up this story saying that your cruelty is known, that you're a horrible person is known. How from your infancy you've been trapping girls and killing people. So look at the humor there, where the Putana story is taken as an accusation for Krishna being hard-hearted and cruel and murderous even. So that is the one. The next song is, the next slide please. Oh yeah, we skipped this. It's okay. That's the last song. I have a total of 7.5 minutes. Stop it. Yeah, I have a total of 7.5 minutes of music, so we are halfway through already, I think. The next song is the one that, it's not the next song, there is a Sakhi song in between. But after that, and the canto is titled as Clever Krishna, Chaturbhuja. How he comes and appeases Radha's anger. So we'll see that song, the next one please. And the slide also, please change the slide. It's about 2.5 minutes. This is a page from my book where I have split the words.
वदसि यदि किञ्चिदपि वदसि
यदि किञ्चिदपि दन्तरुचि कौमुदी हरति दरतिमिरम् अतिघोरम् स्फुरत् अधरसीधवे तव वदन चन्द्रमा रोचयतु लोचन चकोरम् प्रिये चारुशीले प्रिये चारुशीले मुञ्चमयि मानम् अनिदानम् मुञ्चमयि मानम् अनिदानम् सपदि मदनानलो दहति मम मानसम् सपदि मदनानलो दहति मम मानसम् देहि मुखकमल मधुपानम् प्रिये चारुशीले प्रिये चारुशीले मुञ्चमयि मानम् अनिदानम् मुञ्चमयि मानम् अनिदानम्.
These songs are all available on YouTube. This is by Sumanto Mohanty, the Gita Govinda. Some years ago, an album was brought out where every verse of the Gita Govinda was sung. Otherwise, for many decades, most people sing only a few verses. Even the well-known recordings in a song has 8 verses. Ashtapadi, typically they had 8 verses. Singers would sing only 2 or 3. Because it takes a long time to sing. So it's an extensive album that was a set of 4 CDs and very beautifully done. This song is very special. It has, there is one of the verses says that Krishna falls at Radha's feet and says, please place your foot on my head and forgive me. And he doesn't say, forgive me for anything wrong that he has done. He says, you are angry unnecessarily with me. So there is a clue there also that Radha is mistaken in her view, and it is not as if Krishna is guilty of anything. He is quite clear in his conscience, and yet he comes and says, place your foot on me. And there is a legend, well-known saying in South India. I don't know if it's well-known all over the country, but there is a story that when Jayadeva wrote this, and his wife Padmavati would dance this in the temple, in the Puri Jagannath temple. And he wrote this verse, and then he left the palm leaf manuscripts in the house, and he said he would go for his bath, which was typically outside the house in a different building. So then he came back, and then he wrote this, and then he said, no, how can I have anybody Krishna fall at a woman's feet, or the Nayika? How can he beg her forgiveness by? He scratched it out, and he said, no, this is not okay. And then he went for his bath. And then when he came back sometime later, he saw the thing and he said, who has come and messed with this? I had removed this verse and it's back in the book. So then Padmavati said, no, you had come in between. You said you forgot something and you came in, made some changes and went back. So I hadn't seen it. So then he realized that Krishna himself had come. This is the story that is popular in legends, that he came back and he said, no, I can't fall at Radha's feet, and he corrected it and went back. And the beauty of the story is, Jayadeva told Padmavati that you are superior to me because as a bhakt, you have seen the Lord, whereas I have not been able to. So this is a little story that goes with this song and the Ashtapadi. Can we have the last one? This is the Swadhina Bhartruka, sung by Sangeeta Mahapatra. Okay, you can play that and change the slide also. A happy rag will be chosen for this naturally, not one of those yearning rags.
Chandana Shishir तरेण करेण पयो धरे गुरु यदुनन्दन चन्दन शिशिर तरेण करेण पयो धरे ऋगमद अत्र कमात्र मनोभाव ऋगमद अत्र कमात्र मनोभाव मङ्गल कलश सहोदरे निजगादसा यदुनन्दने क्रीडति हृदया नन्दने क्रीडति हृदया नन्दने क्रीडति हृदया नन्दने
Hello, 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 hello.
जनकम्राति नायक नायक मोचने पदधार चुम्बन लम्बित काजल मुज्ज्वलया प्रिय लोचने.
So the Gita Govinda can be appreciated and admired and in total awe at so many levels. You look at the rhyme there, you look at the rag, it's amazing. We never cease to be amazed at how perfect, and it seems to flow so naturally, but the kind of perfect sentiment and the perfect word and the tune and everything is just amazing. Just as our sculpture has been greatly influenced by the Karanas and the technical dance postures of the Natyashastra, our paintings and poetry and music have all been influenced by the dramatic conception of the Nayikas and the different situations of.
True, absolutely true. And what I genuinely liked about the Nayikas and what I refer to as boldness is the boldness with which they express their emotions. It could be love, it could be anger. Like when the Nayika is angry, she says certain mean things which obviously we will think otherwise that they are not done. I mean, it's not okay to be so rude, to be so mean. But yes, they are unashamed in expressing their bare emotions in front of the lover or the friend.
The boldness, the frankness.
Yes, frankness.
So then the frankness comes to the genius of the poet,
Yes.
who's able to communicate that, whether it's in drama or music. And of course the performance, the dancer, the way they express those. There are many things are unsaid, you know, which will not be in the words, but by the way the dancer communicates, then you get the right sense of the Nayika. So that's all I have for you this evening, in case there's any question.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to open the floor for the audience to ask questions.
So, as a student of science, we are not exposed to all this art and literature. I want to ask you one question. What is your perception about life? After reading all this thing, after training yourself, what is the life? That's a very curiosity in me. I know it's not the subject, but because you are a person who are exposed to.
No, I'm very happy to answer you. I don't have to give you my original view or perception, but Bharata Natyashastra and our aesthetic theory is very clear about that. No matter which area we operate in and all our work and, area of our profession or vocation or whatever, all of us have within us an appreciation of the arts. And it's a very healing thing. It's modern lingo to talk of de-stress and relaxation and all these things. But way back in the Natyashastra, they talk about that. The purpose of Natya is to heal people from their daily cares, their day's work, whether it's a king or a doctor, as you say, or a trader or a soldier or a farmer. They have a hard day's work. So what is it that heals the body and mind, spirit? Like today I tell my students there's nobody who will not switch on music when they're driving a car or a bus, or the minute they get home they switch on the TV. So these are centuries or millennia when we never had technology at our disposal. Today, because of the technology, we probably don't realize the importance of that in our lives. But in those days they were actual singers, dancers. So the more people could afford these things, the more they would patronize and sponsor these things. And right in the opening of the Natyashastra, he says the purpose of Natya is twofold. One is relaxation and to heal the mind from the day's cares, and the other is to offer something spiritually uplifting. You see, when we talk of Sringara Ras, I'm sure there would have been many situations where, just as you have the Devdasi and the Rajdasi difference, where the Rajdasi is dancing or performing the music. Ganika actually means a musician, a well-trained musician, and it's a connotation that we are more used to today. But their purpose was to entertain because it's relaxing. It takes the king's mind away from the politics and the conspiracies and the tensions. And it's required in every profession to refresh the mind, to heal, so that you can face your reality better. They're very clear. There is reality and there is the world of art. So we're kind of moving from one to the other, so that we have a more balanced existence. The point I wanted to make was the arts were, of course, for entertainment, but not for personal gratification. There must have been many situations where, like today, you have cabarets, you have these item songs and movies, whatever. But the texts and the tradition, they deal with a higher level. It is not to say that the other levels were not there. And the previous session they said every time you read a story there are two people. There is a writer and there is a person who's reading it. Absolutely. Our tradition is very clear about that. There is the Kavi and there is the Sahriday. So you need a Sahriday is one who is one in heart. One who is able to join in whatever the poet or the artist is offering. So actually we learn a lot of how to appreciate the arts also when we look at because it's all psychology. They've understood so well, and I feel the rasa theory in Natyashastra can very well apply to Broadway or West End or anything, because you are trying to create something so that they enjoy it, and then they merge in that mood, and then you make them feel the way you want them to feel with that group choreography or the music or whatever it is. So it's a very basic theory, and there's a lot of scope for innovation and creativity. And yes, they give you a lot of techniques. They don't force you to how you should use it. So this is one example, and this is the 1185, and it's the date that is generally agreed, or at least few good books give that kind of date because of other references. And I like to think that this is one work of art, literature, and it's a performing arts piece that has not been influenced by any external cultural influence. It's a totally indigenous take on what we think of Sringara Rasa, how it can be enjoyable and beautiful, and how music can be beautiful. I feel, and it's inspired so many others over the century. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say thank you. It was absolutely brilliant. Just a question is, you see that this was all classical and given in the text. What kind of impact did it have on the folk dance, on the folk music across the country?
Yes, I think that's a slightly neglected area of study when we Sanskrit scholars or Sanskrit study. I'm sure many people would agree with me that the development of Sanskrit literature, music and dance went in parallel with the regional languages. I don't believe that the Sanskrit showed the way and everybody copied. I think it's a very organic, dynamic thing that goes back and forth. In fact, I like to say that we have two outstanding texts on dance from the same period, about 30-40 years of difference between Gita Govindam. One is the Sangita Ratnakara, which is very widely quoted and respected, and just a few hundred kilometers away in the same latitude practically was the Nritya Ratnavali. I teach these two texts very briefly to my undergraduate students, but the kind of standards, high standards, and the sculpture, the Ramappa temple, and there's a lot of archaeological evidence also to show that the standards of dance and music were extremely high. And they were vying with each other and they were competing with each other to, improvise. Just as, there's a movie trend in Tamil cinema, Hindi would want to dub the movie or have something similar. So in art, I'm sure artists influence each other, and there's a positive competition, a healthy competition among artists. So that is quite visible when we look at ancient texts. So that is the problem. I think India is having a very big revival now, where artists and performers are also going into Sanskrit texts, and there is a coordinated activity, which has not been there. I mean, it's not brand new. In recent times, that's there. Like in the previous century, like V. Raghavan has brought out a very good explanation and edited edition of the Nritya Ratnavali, but he was not a dancer. So today there are dancers who say, no, we interpret this differently. So it's a huge revival in the whole research that is going on. And in the absence of history books as such, we need to look at architecture and sculpture and these texts and correlate. And we are rebuilding a lot of our history, I would say, of the arts.
थैंक यू मैम. मैं सर का आंसर देना चाहूँगी कि जो नाट्य शास्त्र है, हम क्लासिकल वाले तो पढ़ते हैं और उसका स्टेप बाय स्टेप जानते हैं. फोक में प्रॉब्लम ये हो जाती है कि वो नाट्य शास्त्र के करीब जाते नहीं हैं. अदरवाइज फोक में भी ऐसे कई सारे गाने हैं जो हर नायिका को डिपिक्ट करते हैं. सपोज श्रृंगार है, एक गाना है, अब आई है कैसी रे उमरिया, लहराए चुनरिया, झुक झुक जाए रे नजरिया. श्रृंगार रस है ना. अब नायिका अगर किसी को वेट कर रही है, ऊंचे अटा चढ़ हे रत हारी, स्वाए ना बलमा हमा, ऊंचे अटा चढ़ हे रत. क्या कर रही है वो? देख रही है अपने प्रीतम को. दैट इज फोक एंड नायिका डिपिक्शन.
When I say Natyashastra, I don't mean to say that everybody has to learn only from the Natyashastra. Not at all. We've lost that connect. But today when we see the book, it's more than 2000 years old. We are able to see what the state of the arts were at that time. That is the point. I am not at all suggesting that, it's the Natyashastra which is the one source. It's not the way it's written even. We tend to think our Sanskrit texts are prescriptive. They are descriptive. All of them are descriptive, right from the grammar. So that is.
Can I just make one quick comment?
Yes, please.
Even this latest RRR को जो prize मिला है, the Grammy Award, Nato is basically a derivative of Natya.
Yes, Natya.
It's dance.
Nata.
It is not Nach, it is Nat.
And it is
Nato. So that's why, because it has some, that thought was there in the film director's this thing mind. So it's given him that kind of momentum and energy to do that song. That's my reading.
हाँ. हाँ. नहीं, हाँ नहीं, भाव सिर्फ भाव के बारे में नहीं, एक सेक्शन में भाव के बारे में बताते हैं, दूसरे सेक्शन में ड्रामा हो तो किस तरह से प्लॉट होना चाहिए, उसका बीज क्या है, उसका हेतु क्या है, उसका वस्तु क्या है, ये भी बताए हैं कि जैसे आप फिल्म्स में आज भी देखेंगे तो प्लॉट होना चाहिए, कोई ऑब्स्टिकल्स होना चाहिए और हमें समझ में होना चाहिए कि इस हीरो का क्या पर्पस है इस फिल्म में। अगर प्रतिज्ञा कहते हैं कि ड्रामा है, टेक्नोलॉजी कम है ऑन द स्टेज, नो माइक्स, नो लाइट्स, पीपल हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, तो प्रतिज्ञा इज टू मेक इट नोन, द हीरो हैज टू से दिस इज व्हाट आई विल अचीव। उसके बाद ऑब्स्टिकल्स आते हैं, उसको ओवरकम करते हैं, तब तो वीर रस होगा, तब तो हीरो बनेगा। तो ड्रामा एस्पेक्ट है, डांस एस्पेक्ट बहुत है। जब तक हम गीत गोविंद का समय में आए हैं तो ड्रामा रूपक थोड़ा कम हो गया। हो सकता है अभी देखते हैं कथकली में, यक्षगाना में, फोक थिएटर, छाओ में, it is very much alive. You see features of Natyashastra in these folk things that connect with that textbook, and what they were practically doing was lost. The connect was lost. मगर practice में था। और संस्कृत ड्रामा का हिस्ट्री जब हम पढ़ते हैं, ये देखते हैं कि urban centers में after the foreign invasions, because the Puranic stories were not supported, most troops were disbanded and the dramas went up in flames. So we lost that continuity. But किस तरह से entertain करना, किस तरह से, जैसे यक्षगाना है और कुचिपुड़ी, they have all revived the same traditions. The language doesn't matter. And then if you have the different regions, you have regional styles of costume, of music, of steps, dance also. देशी नृत्य का भी बहुत वर्णन है। एक तो मार्गी है नाट्यशास्त्र का, like in Odyssey, and I am not a dancer, so Lakshmi ji must excuse what I say, but from the theory. You see, you have the Odyssey Tribhang position. My colleagues are all talking about this. The Bharatnatyam talks about the Samapad position. So in a performance, mostly you will find this. But कभी तो भरतनाट्यम में भी त्रिभंग दिखाएंगे, अगर अभिनय में वो चाहिए, अगर वो नृत्य में, नृत्य is pure dance, it is not the enacting. So the steps and those beautiful movements that a trained dancer can do. So in Odyssey also Samabhang कोई situation में दिखा सकते हैं, but Samabhang and Tribhang are both defined in the Natyashastra. So the point is, a style evolves by what is mostly used. So ये features हो जाते हैं style के। मेरे, this book has, it's a bit of a weird book, and I'm so glad, I'm so grateful to Ramesh Chandra ji and others who have called me here. I gave a very detailed introduction to this book. First, any book on Gita Govind, the translation, would deal with Jayadev, his story, and then the poem. But here the first chapter is a history of Sanskrit poetry. Okay. And then the Natya traditions, and the third chapter talks about Jayadev and Gita Govind, and the fourth onwards we go into the verses themselves. So ये जो मैं कह रही हूँ, ये introduction में भी है। हाँ जी।
आप very well written, Sharda ji. As you mentioned a little time back, that this has been an inspiration to later writers and poets and even dancing styles. I would like to mention here that the picture you had shown, Krishna painting the feet of Radha, some similar thing I read in, there's an author in Hindi, Mr. Dharamveer Bharti. He has written Kanupriya, which is about the love of Radha and Krishna. There also it's written that Krishna takes some wild berries and he extracts red color and paints Radha's feet.
So no, Vidyapati in Mithila, there are many writers who are inspired. The Ashtapadi, the Gita Govindam has inspired, I think 150 works. And the whole ethos, what has happened is, there are two aspects to this, or maybe three. One is the Shringar and the arts, performing arts level. Then there is the Bhakti level, the Madhura Bhakti level. Then there is the Ananda, the Rasa Anubhav level, on the philosophical level. But when... Acha. So, I wanted to say something. Anyway. So there are, many layers to understanding this wonderful work. And you were talking about folk, that gentleman. You see, I once heard All India Radio Vivid Bharati interview of Raghunath Panigrahi. And he said he and his father had gone around recording a lot of the Odyssey songs of Ashtapadi. And the previous few centuries have been not very encouraging for the arts. So he says that they had all slipped out of the classical mode into a folksy kind of a song. But the Mahari Devdasi singers, they knew how each song should be sung. So they went and recorded all that, and they say that this song has to be in this rag because the original text has the rags mentioned. He has composed them with directing you what rag you're supposed to use it in. So what Raghunath Panigrahi said was, they set all the songs back into classical mode and they become so fine. It's only a musician who can understand how to do that, where the slipping up, because the singers were not encouraged last 100, 200 years. They don't have the wherewithal to learn correctly, and so there's a huge revival that we are seeing now.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful insight on classical and folk art. Now, I would like to request the President of Society for Culture and Environment, Sri Raghav Chandra, to please come forward and felicitate the author and discussant with memento as a symbol of our love, gratitude and respect.